part of another turbulent week, or is something bigger happening here? Joining us now, former Chief of Staff to Vice President Joe Biden, we have Ron Klain, and former political director and President George W. Bush, and Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. I'm suffering with a cold, in case that hasn't been obvious to everybody. I apologize, guys, for my coughing, but we're going to get through this. Ron, how are you, and what do you make of what has happened this week? Let's just boil it down to the James Comey memo, and whether or not you think that if President Trump said to him, you know what, can you just let the Michael Flynn investigation go, if that's an obstruction of justice?
Well, first, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Look, I think what we're seeing this week is something different than the other controversies that have embroiled Donald Trump since the day he took the Oval Office. I think that this controversy about mishandling classified information is a serious one. And of course, as you mentioned, the combination of firing Comey after having requested that he not pursue the Flynn matter is a very, very serious charge. We need to know more facts. We need Congress to do its job and get the facts. But I think this is a very serious thing. And I think that is it obstruction of justice? It might well be. I think the fact that Trump asked other people to leave the room so he could have this conversation is a very telling fact here.
Matt, do you think we're in new territory this week?
Yeah, I think it's very serious. I think it's important to remember that the Trump White House has pushed back on the account in this memo and whether or not this memo exists, although reporters are saying it does exist. You put congressmen in a terrible position because they're like, well, wait a minute, we need to see this memo if it exists as well. I'll tell you, Allison, as someone who has been in the White House, to think that James Comey was writing down these instances of potential wrongdoing by the president or maybe other administration officials and just kind of keeping it in kind of his side drawer for the right moment, that's awfully alarming to me. You know, that's kind of what J. Edgar Hoover used to do. He used to keep files on everybody so he could bring it up at an opportune time. I don't want to make that charge of Jim Comey, but that's sure what this looks like. I want to hear from him as well. I think we all do, but it's like, if this was wrongdoing, if people are charging that this is obstruction of justice, which I don't know if it really is or not, why wouldn't the FBI director immediately take action on that? If anything, I think this actually makes Jim Comey look even worse after he's lurched left, lurched right, played this strange role in the presidential campaign. Yeah. It seems uneven to me.
But Matt, I just want to be clear. You think that opportunism, I guess is what you're accusing him of, is worse than obstruction of justice? I mean, why are you zeroed in on what Comey did? I think that the explanations are that he thought that he could handle President Trump. He wasn't going to stop doing the investigation into Michael Flynn. So why are you zeroing in on that rather than the fact that people are saying there was obstruction of justice if the president asked a director of the FBI to do this?
Well, let's start from the very beginning, which is I think we all, in every one of these controversies, of which there has been some manner of sloppiness from the White House, I think everybody, from the very beginning of all Russian collusion in the election, everybody has just simply wanted the facts. And I think what people have grown frustrated with the FBI, whether it's during, the Clinton partisans during the campaign or Trump partisans today, is that it seems to take Jim Comey's FBI a very long time to show the American people some very basic information. And what it seems like with him is that he talks loquaciously about some aspects of an investigation and says nothing about the very basic facts. For instance, was Donald Trump ever a target of that investigation? It took Donald Trump explaining that to people, that Comey told him he wasn't a target, for us all to know for sure that he wasn't a target.
Okay.
This is frustrating for people, and it means that Jim Comey lacks credibility with a whole bunch of people, including a lot of Democrats who aren't saying it now, but a couple months ago, they were all asking for his firing.
Ron, what do you think about this? What do you think about how, we've heard this from other Republicans, this is what we should be focused on, not whether or not the president divulged classified information to the Russians in this meeting or tried to somehow obstruct James Comey?
Well, first of all, I think that Director Comey is no longer the director of the FBI, so I think his record at the FBI is less important than what a sitting president of the United States did to potentially put our allies at risk and potentially put an Israeli spy at risk by carelessly handing over information to the Russians, and to try to squelch an ongoing investigation. Look, I worked at the Justice Department as Attorney General Reno's chief of staff. Investigations, unfortunately, take a long time if they're done the right way. And I think the evidence here suggests the FBI was doing it the right way. And as for what James Comey thought he was doing, I agree. He clearly was making notes of the progress of an investigation, making notes of his conversations with the president, as he should have when they were troubling, but thought he could insulate the investigation from political influence. That all changed when last week the president fired Jim Comey and then went on Lester Holt and said he fired him because he was frustrated about the investigation.
I agree
that
with
really
I agree
is
with this.
a serious problem.
I agree with this, Allison. I think that what we're seeing here is Jim Comey is getting his revenge. He was fired. He feels like he was humiliated, and he's striking back. He's now releasing information through friends to reporters about potential wrongdoing of the president, and I think that's wholly inappropriate.
So
he should have done it at the moment.
This is about Jim Comey's humiliation, not about him wanting to get the information out that the president was trying to obstruct an investigation.
Let me be clear about this. He, at the time, if he's going to say that the president was doing something illegal, and he was simply going to write it down in a diary for history, and he wasn't going to take action on that, does anybody else find that incredibly troubling?
But that's not what happened here, Matt. That's not what happened here.
Well, we don't know what happened, but what we're being told happened is that he is now releasing. He said that this memo exists through friends and associates. He is now intimating what's inside that memo. We have journalists saying that they know that the memo exists.
So, but
none of us have read it or seen it.
But Ron, how do you see it?
Well, how I see it is that, again, the conversation with the president was troubling. What made it potentially criminal is when the president then fired the FBI director and acknowledged that it was for the purpose of obstructing the Russia investigation. That is, Jim Comey was proceeding with the investigation, notwithstanding the comments from President Trump, until the president took one additional step.
Let me counter that.
The FBI director.
Let me counter that quickly. The only thing I would say back to that, Ron, is that you now have the person running the FBI who is saying that the White House has done nothing to impede any of these investigations.
Yeah, that's not what he said.
That's not really what he said. On the record in front of Congress,
you're talking about McCabe.
It is what he said.
Right, and he was answering a specific question, I believe, from Jason Chaffetz, so you have to look at it in context. He also may not have known about the Comey memos. But one
that doesn't
thing
matter. No, it doesn't.
Hold on one second.
It does matter. The FBI, no, but let me finish. The FBI didn't impact any of the operations in the FBI with all these officers and these field agents who are doing a good job.
So
they were not stopped.
Right, it didn't work, but if the president tried to do it, that is notable.
No, the president is saying
that is an odd defense.
I just want to say one thing. Does it trouble you if the president divulged classified information to the Russians?
I'm with John Negroponte on this, who was on your show earlier. There's nothing in this that I think that is beyond a sloppy process. I think they should have a better process. I think giving Israel a heads up would be a good thing to do. Look, I think Ron and I were talking about this. I think the sloppiness of not knowing who was going to have a recording device or a smartphone in the Oval Office, having those photos come out. Now we have Vladimir Putin with a recording. I think that's general sloppiness at the NSC, and that needs to stop.
So, Matt, it's general sloppiness when the president divulges classified information, but not when Hillary Clinton has 3 emails that she sends that are mislabeled with a C and that she sends to her own staff.
No, the difference is there was nothing. Well, the difference is that the President of the United States has the legal ability to share this classified information. Yes, it's better politically and for relationships if there's a process. Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State.
Yes,
she lied. She lied dozens of times about her mishandling of sensitive information. And the fact is that the whole system, including the server, was never cleared. So they're completely apples and oranges.
Ron, last word.
Yeah, so I think actually they are apples and oranges in the sense that what Trump did was much worse. There's no evidence that anything Secretary Clinton did ever led to the release of classified information to adversaries. Donald Trump handed Israeli intelligence to the patron of its arch enemy, Iran, a Russian client state. There could be nothing more damaging to Israeli security than giving Israeli intelligence to a principal client.
Okay, Ron, hold on. We got to leave it there. Matt, we heard your side. We heard your side. Ron, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We're following a lot of news this morning, including one of the few Republicans speaking out today.